computer. Okay,
Ah,
yeah,
there
we're
we go.
recording.
Okay.
Okay, we'll
All
try it
right.
again. I want the same enthusiasm second time around, boys.
Yes, we'll hype it even more. Hype it more.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 71 of Marketing Corner.
Woo! 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 Woo!
Yes, yes, we got him. We
Yes.
got him. I knew
Yes.
you'd like it someday, Casper.
Oh,
Right.
exciting.
Yeah,
So,
getting into it.
getting into it, finally, it's only taken 3 years. We did it. So we are back with Fred Linfjärd. How'd I do?
Hello.
Nailed it.
That's
Perfect.
better than mine. Better. Yeah, great. That's
My
great.
Scandinavian roots, Casper. It's my Scandinavian roots. No. So we are back, and Fred is the director of growth at Planday, or the growth janitor, the growth wizard. Pick and choose whichever one you prefer. And last time was kind of a high level, hearing a little bit more about some of the stuff that you've been working on, how you got where you are. But this one, we want to dive a little bit deeper into PLG and that transition, that age-old struggle between going from a sales-led organization to a product-led organization. And you have been on plenty of webinars and stages and podcasts and things like that talking about this. So we would love for your insights and advice. So why don't you talk to the good people at home a little bit about what made, maybe in the first instance, what was the decision, what was the motivator to decide to move over from a sales-led to a product-led, and kind of talk us through that.
Sure. I mean, I think it's probably well, it depends which what type of audience you have or type of customers. But in general, I think it starts that you see that there's more smaller than bigger in your kind of TAM or SAM, the addressable market. And you kind of also have the fact that you might sit with a fairly high cost per acquisition and all these things, and you want to kind of figure out, well, how can we capitalize on all that? It seems like all the demand is with the smaller customers, and should we go there, right? That's usually how it starts. I think that's common for a lot of companies, especially if you have a product that kind of can work for both small, medium, and large, but you need different types of motions and tactics to kind of, and you need a focus, right? So you can't apply this one size fits all for all of them, because that won't be good. So there's usually around there where a decision gets made, I think. And I'm not just speaking from where I am at now, but in general, I think that's what I think.
No. And just for the listeners, in case you haven't caught it here, like this is part 2 of a series. So if you haven't, like, go back and listen to part 1 before you jump into this, because it might be confusing otherwise. Anyways, but but yeah, okay, but like how but you've been in this game for a while, Fred. Like, and you've seen some issues, challenges. Let's put it like that. Like, what are some of the common things you see when people want to transition from sales led to PLG? Like, what are the let's call it pitfalls? Like, what are the pitfalls people usually fall into? Like, that they should try to avoid, maybe, or maybe some of the ones you've done. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's underestimating the fact that it's really not about PLG, it's about change management, business transformation.
I love
That you
that.
have,
Yeah.
you've had a product and an organization that's been, uh, probably started as PLG, and then you kind of go up market over a lot of years, and you add on complexity to the product. You add, you add sales motion on it, and all of a sudden you have a product that needs a human to sell it, right, and to market it. So that's where you are. But to go back smaller is actually complicated and needs a very, very phased approach. I think, because you still have to kind of pay the bills today. Like, it's not that you just tell salespeople to take a hike because we're doing PLG now, and then think that it's going to sell itself, right? That's usually a bad idea. So you need to really take a phased approach, and it's an approach that it needs a lot of effort on learning, on the current motion and kind of gradually start automating away. Okay, so let's say, you know, we call people with an SDR and then we set up and then we either send it to the AE or whatever. Well, you need to figure out, well, how many calls does it take? How long are they? And what, like, can we get it down to maybe one call? Could it be another person than a salesperson that does it? Can we automate it using maybe a type of interactive demo? So it's kind of like learning and gradually. And then at the same point, I think the product also needs to be having a lot of simplifications, right? And we did the same when I was at Capture One, where we had kind of a very advanced, powerful software, but we wanted to sell to amateurs, right? And, you know, without like going into details, but there were some points where we made it simple and we completely screwed it up for the professionals, which basically exploded the internet, you know? So you kind of have to decide also, well, maybe we should just build a new product. It's far too little companies consider maybe we should just build a new simplified product and not try to make what we have today simpler. You know, you have legacy code. So like, I think there's a lot of these discussions, and in order to do that, you kind of really need to be really airtight between product and marketing, and also sales. How does sales fit in there? You should probably it's going to be some type of product-led sales approach. Well, let's figure out how we can tell sales to call people at the right time instead of not calling them, stuff like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that
Makes
point
sense.
of, you know, that PLG is all about change management. I think that's a really good point, because that's something we've experienced as well when we're trying to bring in a PLG. Is sometimes it can feel like we're treading on people's turf, and, you know, they don't understand. You know, for example, for a PLG play that we're trying to do, we're trying to enable sales to go up market, deal with those larger deals, those more complex. So we're trying to take the small deals off their plate, and it took quite a few discussions to get that across. Like, we're not kicking you out, we're not trying to replace you, we're actually trying to give you the freedom to go for those really big deals, and these little ones, like you say, these little ones who don't need all the bells and whistles, let us automate that. Let's try to simplify that. And as you said, you know, we've also made a few assumptions and had things blow up, and it's all about the learning process, and that's growth, right?
Yeah, and to your point, I think it's really interesting and important to the conversation with sales. I think the sales and marketing alignment goes equally in hand here, that you kind of have to position it to like, hey, we're going to take this off your back and leave you with a noise-free pipeline where you don't have to make every other call is like a person that's, you know, super low contract value. You know, kind of have to kind of position it like that, instead of, we're coming in now and you're not going to call these people. It's like, it can really get the misinterpreted, I think.
100%. Like, I think we've all been there. So I totally agree. It's kind of crazy, right? I think you talk a little bit like about this, like how do you, I want to transition a little bit like to how do you get the buy-in like from these like other departments, like we talked a little bit about this before off air, like cross-functional teams, the concept around that. How do you design a growth cross-functional team if you do so? Like what is your approach here?
I think I think for Planday, what's really good now is that that we have a kind of a cross-functional team that has dedicated people working. It has a dedicated kind of project manager and people that can come in and kind of drive this alongside with all the other teams, like for instance the teams that own different areas. And I think we've come a far way there, and I think we've probably tried it a couple of times in the past where you kind of try to get an existing team to do it, and that becomes really hard because you all have your own, I guess, team agenda or KPIs very rooted. But it's
And you
hard
lack
to,
autonomy, right? Like you can't
Yeah.
really make decisions on behalf of someone else. Like that's always what I faced with those models, at least.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what Planday is doing is really good because we actually have a C-level co-founder that's actually the one that is in charge of that team or has the higher. They report into that, and I think that is the way to do it. To put that with its own budget and resources under a C-suite that can really help remove obstacles in no matter
Yeah.
team it is, if it's a marketing or product where things get stuck. So, and I think that's the way to do it. And it could be a growth team. It could just be a, you know, cross-functional team with a project manager that is trying to chip away on it. But yeah, I think that's the good
especially
idea.
when you want to, like, when you do things like that really matter, right? Like that's how I always felt about it. Like you need that like C level buy-in to remove, like you said it yourself, like remove these obstacles. Otherwise you end up in a like pissing contest, like territory marking, like where it's like, okay, everyone like, hey, this is my area, state of like, Casper, fuck off. Like,
I mean, it really is, and I mean, it's easy how you can feel. I mean, I even felt it myself because I kind of had an idea how I would do it on an execution level, which would be different than that team. But in the end, it's kind of like you kind of have to just and you know, they want to that team will take out resources from your team. Like that's the challenge. That's how it will always work. Is that a cross-functional growth team or whatever, they will come and they will take resources out. And if you haven't properly done, you know, stakeholder management where the whole company is on board where we're going, it's going to be very, very negative, and it can cause, you know, negative friction, and people might feel like, well, hey, that's my job, or hey, well, why do I have to do double work now? Because you still have to, like, for instance, I have a resource in my team that I've given to that team, right? I need to tell that to my C-levels that, hey, I'm not going to perform the same, like I can't do these same tasks anymore because I'm 30% short because I support this. It's very easy to get run over there, and you say like, yes, I'm just continuing with the same thing that we did before, except it's 30% less resources. So you have to really be prepared to communicate that well, now we're doing this. It means that we're going to have to do less here. What do you think we should do, not do now when I'm 30%? You know, that's important, I think.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And that's
do you have a question, Jen?
Well, no,
right.
not a question, just my own experience, because we do things a little differently, but anyway.
I would love to hear. I would love to hear that.
Yeah,
go.
We did we also have a PLG play, but we do what we call cross-functional task forces, where it's not a dedicated team that only works on that. It is people who add it to their normal work, and we have an understanding with C-level. Yeah, exactly. We have an understanding with C-level that, of course, this should be, you know, 20% of our normal work, and we try to meet bi-weekly. So of course it's a lot slower, but you know, we come up with our own problems of, you know, I'm swamped right now, and now I have to do this other thing over here. So it's, you know, it's comforting in a way to know that the way you do it isn't perfect either. You know, because we're struggling with that a bit. We didn't have the ability to have a dedicated extra team on top, but we're just adding it to our workload where we have a task force where people meet bi-weekly, agree with things that they're going to do, try to incorporate that into their work, and then get back to work as usual. And that's also not perfect.
I think that's really interesting, and I think it took. I mean, we went through the motion on this when we implemented this with all the negativity or not negativity, but it was, you know, people didn't understand what's going on and blah blah. And I think now we've figured it out. I think now everyone is on board, because the thing is, when it comes to PLG or going to the unknown, it's going to demand a lot of experimenting in many ways. And how do you optimize experimenting? Well, you optimize how can I run as more experiments as possible, right? That's the only way to do it.
Yes.
So you really need that speed and velocity of experimenting to get to where you are, because otherwise it's very easy for it to flat out. You don't deliver the results fast enough, or you sacrifice the quality and on the analysis and stuff, that it's, you know, maybe not trustworthy, and then the whole thing can kind of trickle down also. So that's just like something that is important to be aware of, regardless in which route you're going, I think.
How do you like, and one thing like I wanted to like, how do you emphasize speed like in that process, Fred? How do you guys do it? Like maybe the questions kind of let it, but like what I'm fishing for is a little bit like, how do you, one of the things I've always taught a lot of people about and struggled with early on, I found a method after a while, but how do you select the ideas to test? Like how do you find the experiments you want to run? Like how do you decide on what to do? Like do you have a process for that, or?
Yeah, yeah. So I have I mean, I sit a lot with the process, and it's really just being very, very disciplined on you know, your you know, that you start from data, you come up with an hypothesis based on something. It doesn't have to be data, it could be a you know, insight or something you heard, and putting things together, and then you come there's some type of problem, and you come up with an idea, and you want to, how can I test this as fast as possible, you know, minimal viable test, just to prove that hypothesis. And then when you and then kind of implement it, and then kind of go around that wheel, right? And I think you've seen these wheels, they're all the same, like analyze, test, or hypothesis, blah blah, all that. So I do that. I like the stuff that Brian, I really like Brian Belfour a lot. He's very good at that, and I really like he's adding these zoom out things, and that's what I'm trying to do, like that you really zoom out every 60 days or every 9 days, and then you zoom out, you look at it, and you kind of decide the direction, and then you jump in and you only do that. In like come up with ideas on that, because it's very easy that you come up with one experiment per idea. More likely you need to have a lot of experiments per idea for it to get right. So it's very easy that you just like, oh, we tried that, we did one experiment, it didn't work. Well, I mean, like the first onboarding flow that you put in, that it's not going to be the best one, right? Or whatever, you know. So it's important that you really try to focus on it, and then in order to do that, you kind of need to build a business case for each thing, right? Where you kind of look at the projection and size it up in ARR, like, hey, if we solve this problem, it's going to actually save us this much of time or make us this much of money, versus if we do this other thing here, it's going to go this little. So we're going to do this one here, or we decide that this one here is going to take too long and it's going to be too hard to actually get going on, so we're going to do 10 of these small ones instead, like, you know. And I like to have at least a couple of big bets, so kind of you know, scatter your portfolio, and so you have kind of, you need to have 1 or 2 big bets, but then you kind of need to do the, you know, landing page experiments or whatever that are smaller, right? Also, if that makes sense.
I think like I've always liked the ICE method, like impact, ease, so it's like that kind of methodology. I actually forgot the last one, but like
no, I like that. That's what that was my first book where I like the Sean Ellis Hacking Growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that ICE. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's that one we still have, and I think that one is really good as a first. Just take the temperature. And then you can add on to that if you want to go deeper. But the ICE works perfect. That's kind of what we have time to do.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want to overcomplicate it. Like, because like I always found like, because we're all wanting like, yeah, hey, this is the big thing. We're changing this like product pricing level or whatever, or something like. Well, that's a big decision, right? You know, or whatever. And then hey, we're fixing this button on a landing page. Okay. One is way more impactful than the other, most likely, but the other one is a lot easier to do. So how do you pick? Like, I think that I always use that methodology, at least internally, like to kind of decide from our side. Like that's always how I went about it.
And I think in B2B versus where I was at Capture One, where it's more of a B2C thing. B2B, it's like if someone comes to you and asks like we should do an A/B test, 9 out of 10 times it's like, yeah, no, we're not going to do it. It's much
Yeah.
more it's much harder to do. Like you want to test value proposition. Well, how do we test that? Well, we can, like, it's not an A/B test with two, that will take too long time, because then you have to connect it. Should I connect it into a sign up for a trial? Well, wait a minute, what if all the MQLs we have, it's not really growing in proportion to our op1, the gap is too wide there, so we haven't really solved that part, which means that we can test against the sign up, because it's going to take 50 years before we have the, like it becomes really tricky, right?
Yeah,
I think
you gotta
one of
have
the-
these leading indicators. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jen.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say that our experience also, just you kind of touched upon it a little bit, is as we dove deeper and deeper into PLG, it was almost like trying to untie a knot that just keeps tying itself, because then we realized, oh, well, we need a new pricing strategy if we want to make this simple, right? We need a light version if we want to make this, if we want to automate this. And so there's a lot of extra things, the positioning, the messaging. There's, as you dive into something, you think, okay, this is going to be this. And then all of a sudden your path goes like this. And it's like, oh, well, shit, now we have to look at our pricing. Well, then now we have to look at the package we actually offer. Well, now we have to look at the features. Oh, but tech are saying we can't put anything else in the product because they have their own stuff going on. And, so kind of, you get so far and then you take like one giant step forward and then two small steps back and one giant step forward. And is that something first that you've noticed? And like, how do you deal with that and make sure that you still keep going towards the goal with so many new problems surfacing?
Yeah, I think that one is tough. I think the best way that I think of it is, okay, so you have a product. Going back to we have a product now. We use salespeople to sell it. It's like PLG works great in enterprise if you actually think about it. Adding a layer of PLG tactics to enterprise. So actually start not doing anything with your sales motion, but you actually use PLG to make them better, right? With sending in signals, product signals to them, like, hey, like a low-hanging fruit. Tell the salespeople when someone has logged in 1 or 2 times, right? And tell them, hey, try to call these ones first, and I will compare the other ones, like these kind of things. And then here's how about I'll put in some questions in the demo that they'll answer, that you get in beforehand of the demo, so you know actually what they want, so you have time to actually set up the demo to be super valuable. By that, closing them is more likely. Stuff like that can is what I think works best, instead of going, we're gonna do, because as soon as you say like we're gonna do PLG now, it means that you're not gonna do SLG. That's what people.
That's what they hear.
My job. Okay. They don't need.
I'm out. Yeah.
That's
such a good point. Yeah.
That's what they hear.
That
Yeah,
might
you're right.
not be the case,
Yeah.
And most of the time it isn't, right? Like most of the time it's like a transition,
I mean,
right? Like
I think it's probably most products that try to evolve from SLG. They're, it's not going to be full product led without the salesperson, if ever.
I think
unless
let me shoot in a cool example. So I can't mention the company by name, but like we're helping a American based cool company these days, and they've been very they've been a mixture now, and now they're transitioning and like saying like, so all small deals, like all small clients, are all PLG only, so there's no sales touch, and they're transitioning all their bigger deals into being very sales led. And I think that's a classic case of saying like they've actually been mixed. I think they were at some point fully PLG, then they discovered, okay, that wasn't great either. And now they were like, then they were fully sales led, and I was like, okay, that wasn't great either. So now just like a cool mix. But I think that's just like, yeah, that's been a great case. At least I've been looking on the inside and like saying, okay, cool. Like that's actually also a perfect way to do it, and it works perfectly fine. Like it doesn't always have to be either or. I think that's my point with it.
I think the differentiation there on size is good. I mean, if you have an outbound team, I mean, you have no business calling anyone under 3,000 euro ARR. I mean, I think I've read somewhere the benchmark for a sales team to be profitable is that you need to go on minimum 5,000 euro or something. It might not be like that, but you know what I mean. There's probably a split there, so
Yes.
you can kind of figure out what you said there, Casper, and how we can. Hey, let us do the 1 to 9 or whatever to start with.
Yeah, exactly. I wanna we're quickly running out of time. This is really cool, Fred. But I've kind of like I wanted to take a little bit of step back because we all know growth hacking and growth in general used to be like the name of the game, and now it's turned into a little bit of like a buzzword. And like you are still holding a flag high. I love it. Jen is too. But where do you see like 2024 AIs all across the board? Like within the growth space, what are is there any movements, anything like tools, anything interesting that's exciting for you? Like what are you excited about in 2024 when it comes to growth? Could also be other things, but yeah.
Wow, I also want to hear what you think. I mean, for me personally, I jumped on the AI. I drank that Kool-Aid, from the beginning. So I just think I think AI can speed up a lot of the things that takes a long time and I use it for analysis. I use it to write emails. I use it to check emails, what people actually meant in their emails. Like, do I understand? Like, I don't know. I think AI is a really, really powerful building, but it's more like a test that I want to do. I want like putting AI on your own data and creating customer value, these things. But in terms of the growth process, I don't know. I think you still need to go through the cycle, right? In a disciplined approach. I think maybe AI can help with that. I don't know. What do you guys think? I might be missing something here.
I'm not sure you do. Like, I think AI is on the lips of everyone. Like, everybody talks about AI. I actually recently did a presentation at an AI conference, and I was talking about how AI has helped me and like my team. Like, we built I want to sound like an AI engine. That's not what we did, which is like it's a Google Sheets integration, but sounds fancy. But but we essentially built to help us build go-to-market motions for clients, right? So we always do these like ICP exercises, like an ideal customer profile, and now essentially built AI like Google Sheet that essentially extracts all that information and then builds go-to-market motions with ads and everything, like totally
That's cool.
almost automatic. That's pretty cool. And I was like, when I discovered you could do that, I was like, fuck me, this is awesome. Like, so that's the kind of stuff that excites me, right? Like, but I agree with you. Like, AI is the thing. Like, that is the thing I'm still working on. That's the thing that gets me up in the morning when it comes to excitement. I think I want to add. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to use that my second one. Offline marketing. I seriously think that it's getting harder and harder, at least in the marketing performance, to penetrate the noise. And when I had, I don't know if you heard about this company, I don't even remember what it is, but I got the office manager came and delivered me like a written letter that just listed out LinkedIn conversations I had, like a personal letter. And and she said, I have 3 more to your colleagues. And I opened up, they're from the same company, completely automated. And it's like, it was delivered to me, penetrated my whole, LinkedIn, not accepting anyone that has SDR in the title, whatever I do anyways. But it like finding these ways to penetrate. So I kind of think that using offline and connecting it with digital has kind of a comeback. Yeah, we thought we left at it back in the day. QR codes. No one's gonna scan those things, and I thought it was bullshit too. But I actually saw it working, and I mean, how can they even get my LinkedIn conversations, like what I've had in a discussion, and list that and get it to print out and do it all on demand, automated? Was to me like, wow, I need to find who this marketer is. So
well, that's something we talked about in a previous episode, right? Is kind of 2024 is all about the really great marketers coming out, like whether they're doing stuff online, whether they're using AI. We did a direct mail campaign too with handwritten notes sent out, and we had over a 60% conversion rate because exactly why you got that, right? Like you got something in the mail and you're like, oh shit, this is cool. I can hold this in my hand. It's not another ad on my LinkedIn feed. So I think that's a really, at least you kind of asked, you asked what we think, but I think for me, what's exciting is we kind of like what you said in the previous episode, we can't keep using regurgitating the same playbooks. I want to see those new playbooks. I want to see those new tactics that people are employing that isn't cheesy. It's not, I don't want cheesy. I don't want creepy. I want genuine. I want tailored. I want to find the cool ways to cut through the noise, as you said. I think that's the thing that gets me excited.
And I think a good thing to tie that knot, sorry, guys, is that who are the function that creates new playbooks? Well, it's usually the people that experiment with stuff, right?
Yeah.
True.
No, but that's right. No,
Add that to our list of tasks.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's like at the end of the day, for me, it's and I think offline is a perfect example of saying like I think it's just creativity is back on the menu, boys. Like it's just like that's how I feel about it. Like whenever I talk to companies, it's like it's just, like you just said it, regurgitating the same playbooks, lead gen forms, blah blah blah. No, we gotta do something special. And your example from just before is awesome. Please. You can send that letter to me. I want to check it out.
Yeah, me too.
But,
I want to know how you do that.
Yeah, exactly. But I think like for me, it's just it's the creativity part. Okay, I want to end on a final note, and not to end on a negative note, but I kind of want to flip it. Is there anything that's like worrying you about 2024, like heading into it? Like, is there anything where like, hey man, this part doesn't excite me? Like anything on that spectrum?
I think I actually thought or hoped that I think companies in general would have come further when it comes to looking at marketing. You probably know what I mean, like how like it's a very complex thing to do, and it needs to be done right, and it's very and it's usually done with people that are very passionate. And I think marketing gets railroaded a lot, and doesn't really get the focus to play. And I think it's forced to take to do short term. And I actually hope, like in general, the business, I hope that there would be more companies that would spend the time and the money to actually create great marketing for a company and a brand, because I think and I know that will pay itself off. Brand and word of mouth. The network effect there is by far bigger growth than any ad you can run. In my opinion. So I think so. I wish we were further on that. What do you guys think?
I love that. I gotta say, I love that because I totally agree. Like, and I'm also, especially now that I've made an agency, that I get to see more companies than I did before. Like, I gotta say, like the state of marketing is not where I want it to be. Like, I'm just gonna be real. Like, it's just not. And it goes both ways. How companies look at it, and also, to be honest, like the state of the marketeers I sometimes deal with, like sometimes talk with, like the competency level across the board, both for marketeers and people within looking at marketing, is just. It's not as high as I want it to be like in 2024 here. Like I was hoping it would be better, and I think so it goes both ways. I think we as marketing people have to do better. I think the three of us are trying, but I think we as marketeers have to do better. I think the companies have to do better, right? Like people are still questioning if marketing is something you should include and like is something you should do, and I'm like, I still hear that. Like I still hear that. So wow. I totally buy into that, Fred.
And we're having the same, debates about the long-term, short-term, right? And that's one of the reasons that we at my company, we've decided to align ourselves actually more with product, because product operate on roadmaps. They operate long-term. And, of course, we still try to do short-term stuff. We have monthly targets we have to hit. But I remember having this debate with my VP of sales. Shout out to Bruno, wonderful man. But he said, we need to do more short-term. And I was like, what's a short-term? What is short-term in marketing? Is it a blog piece, in which case you need the algorithm to kick up? So it's going to take you maybe a month, maybe two before you start actually seeing return on that. Is it a campaign that you launch out the door that you're not going to see return the next day? You're going to see it over time. Like everything takes time. And I think from a sales perspective, you can get on the phone and you can hire someone and get on the phone more and you can see more immediate results. But in marketing, sometimes if you look at marketing with a sales lens, and yeah, of course it looks lazy, or it looks like you're not doing anything because we don't have the ability to flip a switch and then all of a sudden this flood of perfect leads come in. So it is a long-term play shoved into a short-term frame. And that's yeah, so I agree with you. It's really frustrating that that's still a thing, that we haven't evolved with all the thought leaders and all the noise and everything that we have out in the world. We're still put in this short-term box and told to be effective now.
Can I add to that?
Always.
Yeah, go.
I think also it's partly marketing's fault. And the reason why I say that is because we don't allow ourselves to be accountable. I think marketing should be measured on ARR or what's closest. But we keep going with the MQL volume, and that's I mean, I'm sorry to say it's easy, you know, and it's and we as marketers need to demand, hey, I want to be measured. I want to see how much revenue I'm influencing. That's what you should measure me on.
But not on a first click. That's the thing that I don't want to measure on a first click. I want a multi-touch, not first click.
Exactly. And it becomes complicated because you have to explain marketing attribution. This is how much you can do. Okay. I say rule of thumb, you know, if you ask me how I can impact, you know, they come like, what can marketing do to help save the quarter? Nothing. Because I say like, everything we do this quarter, we might see it next quarter or even the quarter after. That's just how it is. It doesn't matter if I drop everything and send out the email blast. It's
do an email blast. Yeah, those always work.
I always call it the nature of pipeline creation. Like, and I literally I was advising a company the other day, and they're like, we're gonna go all in on SEO, cut down on paid, and do like just focus on all in on search engine optimization. Like, hey, I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Like search engine optimization, go for it. Like, I think there's you guys have a lot of room for improvement there. So that's a great decision. I just want to point something out though. Like you guys have and this was you have a long sales cycle, like 6 months plus. That means you have from now until around summer to generate pipeline. And if you don't generate any pipeline in those next 6 months, like 5 months now, like then you won't close anything this year, like anything. So if you go all in today and just close down all your paid spend, sure, it's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, then that means you won't have any pipeline for the rest of the year. So maybe you want to do a smooth transition. Maybe that's a better decision. And then the guy was like, oh yeah. Okay, right. So, and I think it's just to your point, Fred, like we are on our own fault for being in this situation sometimes. Sometimes we're like, So I think
I'm
that's
facing
a
the
great
exact same thing what you're talking about there. Like how do we same way transitioning from SLG to PLG, how do we transition from being primary paid to primary organic? It's a journey, right? And you can't just stop the other one, because then you stop the company pretty much, you know?
and people always use the examples, but look at Airbnb and look at HubSpot. And like,
Tesla doesn't have marketing.
Like, and they were born out of that, you know? So it's like
come on, like it doesn't work that way most of the time. So all right, I think I want to end on that note. Fred, do you have anything like you want to add, any shout outs, any cool observation, anything beyond, because otherwise
I want to just thank you guys for having me on. I'm a fan of the podcast, and so I'm deeply honored. And shout out to my team and all my friends at Planday and Fastspring and I don't know, like to the community that's trying to do good marketing, you know, and showing up every day and trying to do their best work. And you know, I really fighting the good fight. Yeah, you guys are.
And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of
them.
And thank you for coming on, Fred. It's been really cool to have you, and we're a fan of you too. So go Spurs.
Keep up the great work, mate. Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
And
take care and have a great day. And thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Wait, are we recording now, or are we saying goodbye?
We're saying goodbye.
We're saying goodbye, Fred.
We're saying goodbye to the listeners.
Okay. Oh shit.
Goodbye, listeners.
I thought we were stuff. Goodbye, listeners.
We are not cutting that part, Fred. We're leaving that in. So thanks for listening, everyone. Snippet. This is the level. Yeah, awesome.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye.